Hi students, today we start a 2-week unit on polar coordinates and polar equations. First, let's review what we've done in the past. The point xy is called a rectangular coordinate because it's plotted on a rectangular grid of graph paper. We've been plotting rectangular coordinates on rectangular graph paper forever. Let's consider another type of graph paper. This is called polar graph paper. It's composed of multiple circles called concentric circles. We learned that word in geometry. The origin is the center of the concentric circles, and to us it's called the pole. And you notice these circles are very much like sonar waves that you studied in physics. How would we plot a point like this? R comma theta, where r is the length of the radius and theta is the angle of the rotation. To plot a point that's in polar form, you must graph the radius first, then the angle of the rotation. The order is important. You'll see I wrote that in bold print. The order is important. That's why we call it an ordered pair. Let's plot a few points and we'll label them. Point A has a radius of 3 and a rotation of pi over 3. Let's recall positive angles are counterclockwise and negative angles are clockwise. So the point 3 comma pi over 3, we start at the pole. Our radius is positive 3, so we move 3 to the right, and our angle rotation is pi over 3. So we rotate pi over 3, and that would be this point, point A. Let's try point B. Notice point B has a negative radius, and still its angle measure rotation is still positive, pi over 3. So that is still counterclockwise. So we'll start at the pole. Our radius is negative 3. And we still rotate counterclockwise, pi over 3, and this is point B. Okay, let's try some more. Here are a couple more. Point C has a positive radius, but a negative angle. So remember, negative angles are clockwise. So we're going to move from the pole, a radius of 3, and then negative pi over 3 is clockwise. Pi over 3. So that would put us right here. And that's point C. Point D has a negative radius and a negative theta. So we move from the pole, negative 3 and negative pi over 3, which is clockwise, pi over 3. So that would be right here. And that's going to be point D. Okay, let's try maybe 3 more. How about 2, negative pi over 2. So starting at the pole, our radius is 2, and negative pi over 2 is clockwise. And point A. Point B, negative 4, negative 2 pi over 3. So we start at the pole, negative 4, and negative 2 pi over 3 is clockwise 2 pi over 3. So that would bring us around. Remember, 2 pi over 3 is a 120. So that would bring us around to this point. And point C is 3, 0. So beg my pardon, negative 3, 0. And so we move from the pole, negative 3, and then we don't move any rotation. It's just negative 3 on the radius, and our rotation is 0 degrees. So that's it. One more thing, and we'll stop here. What do you think these two equations would graph? R equals 3. To me, that says all my radii are 3. If I were to make a t-table, that would mean that all my radii are 3. It doesn't matter what my theta is. Theta could be 0. Theta could be pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 2. So if I plotted those points, 3 for my radius, 0 for my theta. 3 from my radius, pi over 6 for theta. A radius of 3, pi over 3. A radius of 3, pi over 2. In other words, my radii is 3. There you go. What would we get? What would they make? All of these points make a circle. And we know in rectangular form, a circle's equation centered at the origin is x squared plus y squared equals radius squared. Alrighty, let's take a look at this one. This one says all of my thetas are 7 pi over 6. So in other words, doesn't matter what my radius is, but all of my thetas are 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6. Let's just take a few. Let's say my radius is 3. How about negative 3? How about 2? How about negative 1? Okay, so my radius is 3, starting at the pole, 1, 2, 3, and 7 pi over 6 would be right here. My radius is negative 3, 1, 2, 3, and 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 would be right here. My radius is 2, 1, 2, and 7 pi over 6 right here. My radius, negative 1. Negative 1 would be to the left one, and 7 pi over 6 would be all the way around here. So what are we going to get? We end up getting a line. So anytime we have theta equals 7 pi over 6, theta equals pi over 3, anyway, it's going to be a line passing through this angle. So find 7 pi over 6, draw a line through it. There you go. What is it? It's the line. And in rectangular form, a line's equation is y equals mx plus b form. All right, guys. See you in the next video. Bye.